This is Mo Bashir for the hook. I am delighted to be joined by Paul Bhatti, which we've just established, the CEO of the infamous Kronk Gym. Paul, thank you so much for your time. How are you, first and foremost?
I'm very good, Mo. How you doing, man?
I'm all good, man. I'm all good. Let's start from the beginning of your journey because we were talking a little bit off camera and through some of the research I've done. You've worked in the IT industry for coming on 31 years. You've worked across startups, private equity, you've led big corporations. How does one go from the corporate environment into boxing?
Well, again, thanks for having me on, Mo. Um, a crazy journey, a very unexpected journey as well, and being a boxing fan all my life, and then getting a chance to be part of a team that owns the trademarks to the biggest brand in the world of boxing, very, very surreal. So, um, we got the opportunity to acquire these trademarks a couple of years ago, and going through the process of acquiring them. Um, I decided to lead it, and I walked away, retired from my post. I was leading 4,000 people at that time, a $700 million business, and I put heart, life, soul into Kronk with the rest of the guys, and we've been doing this 16, 17 months, and I'm delighted where we've come from because what we acquired was a bunch of trademarks and there was no active business. So we had to really, so we've got this enormous brand, but it's a startup in many respects because we have to build up to that to match the expectations of the brand. So that's kind of how it evolved over the last couple of years. And yeah, best decision I ever made.
Awesome. But boxing was a big part of your life growing up. Just touch upon that and what it meant to you growing up.
Yeah, my father was a massive Muhammad Ali fan, so I'm fortunate to still have a lot of his memorabilia and very old ring magazines that he used to buy and save for me. Boxing News is, and I remember watching the rerun of Muhammad Ali, Larry Holmes when I was 7 or 8 years old, 1980-ish, and it was the first time I saw my dad cry, and he wasn't very much an emotional type guy like that, but it really meant something to me as a young, impressionable child that absorbed so much at that age that this sport and that man in particular gave my dad that reaction, and that always stuck with me. And from there on in, I was a just a boxing fan. Never boxed myself, sparred and been to gyms, but I'm certainly not a boxer. But always loved the sport, going through all the Four Kings era into Mike Tyson, and continued throughout the years with many big fights that I've been able to go to. Living out here in Michigan, it's 4 hour hop to Vegas. So went to see all the three Fury Wilder fights live. I've been to Spence Crawford and many, many big fights. So I just carried on that passion. And then, like I said earlier, following on from that, Mo, I get I get the chance to go and meet my partner John and the Stewart family at an event they were having to talk about the possibilities of taking this brand over, which was crazy for me. So, to be able to combine the, the business knowledge and acumen that I've been very fortunate to attain over 31 years, and then apply that into a brand that needed that, I think it's for me personally a great fit.
Awesome. And in your corporate career, obviously, it sounds like you become that you were really successful. Like, was getting into sport maybe something that you envision doing? Because we see now there's a lot of crossover between corporates and people going into sport. You have uh big American owners going into, they bought Chelsea, they're going into these big teams. Was that something that you wanted to follow, or was it just something that happened?
I never actively thought about going into the sport. I didn't know that that was ever a chance to do that. Um, my evenings and to this day consist of watching your channel and anyone else's YouTube outlet that I follow as a fan to understand what's going on in the world of boxing. And many times I'd look at it and think, I'd love to be involved. I'd love to be doing something in this sport, but no real route in for me. And that's why it was even more special when Kronk came around because I can enjoy the business side in terms of its revival and the brand partnerships we're cultivating, the revenue streams we've initiated, but I also get to enjoy the boxing side that I'm learning every day to this day. I mean, only last week was the first amateur tournament I ever went to. We had three of our kids fighting, and just to see how that's arranged, all the coordination, a lot of waiting around, a lot of young kids angst. They're wrapped up and they may not get matched. They're just learning this whole inner sanctum of the sport, amateur, professional, and the business active aspect of it has been fantastic for me because when, like with anyone, if you've been doing something a long time, like I was in IT, there's not many things that were coming over my desk that I've not seen before, and it was just all getting a little bit stale for me. My primary focus has always been people. That's my North Star in terms of the framework and guardrails of an organization. For me, it's all about people and culture, open communication, not believing in the hierarchy. I'm not a title guy. I always like to say I'm just Paul. And I believe once any leaders doing that on a repetitive, genuine basis, you build culture, you build loyalty, and that's how you take businesses forward. So with Kronk, it's a mixture of all that. We've got amateur fighters, we've got professional, we've got a full business suite of partnerships. We've got a gym that's now our epicenter, our headquarters, if you like. And that's where everything stems from. We've got the platform now. And yeah, the last couple of years, there's been a lot going on to get to this point. But yeah, as I said earlier, couldn't be happier with how the team have progressed with the minimal resources at this moment to get to the level where we're at.
Awesome. And just a little bit about the Kronk Gym because it's synonymous with so many big names. Thomas Hearns, obviously Emmanuel Stewart is like the figurehead. But when it started out, it was sort of set up to serve as a sort of like a community hub. Do you mind just explaining, like for anyone watching who, maybe doesn't know a lot about the legacy of the Kronk Gym? Do you mind just explaining like how I guess influential Emmanuel Stewart was to sort of leaning it into the name it is today?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll start with Emmanuel, and obviously I never met him. I never met him. He unfortunately passed in 2012, and even though I was here from 2007, I wasn't in that circle. I never came across him. But Mo, I've met hundreds of people, hundreds and hundreds of people that have all got a story about this man and the way he gave everybody time, the way his focus was the kids. Very much people minded as well. But on top of that, the greatest trainer of all time with 41 world champions that came under his purview throughout his time of leading Kronk. Emmanuel, in the gym, we've got like a special corner. We call it the Emmanuel's Corner, and it says the Godfather of Detroit boxing. Well, for me, that's the Godfather of world boxing because he started out at as you said, the Kronk Recreation Center, which did basketball and swimming and tennis. And in the basement, there was a gym available. Emmanuel managed to get hold of it with the owner of the building, who was John Kronk, a local councilman in Detroit. And he ended up using the basement and it became Kronk Boxing. And speaking to many people that went down to that basement, that was an experience that's still with these guys to this day. And we've kept the ethics and the integrity of that and the hard work ethic. But as my partner always eloquently talks about, John, there's never going to be another Kronk Gym of that ilk, and there's never going to be another Emmanuel Stewart. But we're left with the blueprint, and all I've been doing personally is modernizing that to be effective circa 2026 going forward. How do you monetize this brand in this day and age with the medium that we have around us? Obviously, socials wasn't around back in the day. You can reach a lot more people a lot quicker, more effectively, instantaneously than ever before. Now, when you've got a brand that's coming back that's got 55 years of heritage, 41 world champions, we've already got all of that narrative. We've already got that brand equity. And it just needed to be, pump the tires and get it up there. And that's what we've been doing. But that's all down to all the champions, all the people, Emmanuel, that put in hard blood, sweat and tears, emotion, money to get it to a certain point. And we've been able to get these trademarks and somewhat give it a rebirth, give a lot of the old champions the flowers that they haven't got. And the gym, Mo, I call it, and one day hopefully you'll see it, I call it a functional museum because people come in and they're literally just looking around these walls, all the champions are on the walls, all the legacy, all the history. And people come in just to take videos. We're not asking them for memberships. They don't need to come train. People just want to come in, and they come and take videos and pictures and ask questions and give you stories about what Kronk meant to them. So it's it's just been incredible, because typically in business, you start off a concept, an idea. You've got to build a brand for awareness, otherwise it's just a ghost. And you've got to build the products and services. We've already got the brand. It's a massive enabler, and it already takes us a step further. But the responsibilities that come in with owning that brand for me and the team is the expectations that's on us, because they expect world champions. We've got one professional, he's had 4 fights. We're a long way from that, which is why, from a business perspective, I had to focus on the revenue streams that can be the flywheel to support the boxing program. I don't have the great names you mentioned earlier that you'd get 20% of their purse as the advisor, which Kronk plays at. Obviously, we're not promoters. We train fighters and advise. But without having a suite of top 10 fighters or a couple of world champions, we can't just keep dumping the capital into boxing. We had to leverage what the brand is. And we've kicked off revenue streams like our merchandise, like the gym. We have sponsorships. We've got licensing deals. I work with BoxRaw, Undisputed. Recently did a deal with Boxing News as our global media partner. So Kronk carries itself into those conversations, and then the new team and we just work around expectations, and we want to be able to deliver Kronk to the major news outlets. BoxRaw have got a tremendous demographic where we're very weak, 18 to 35-year-olds. Ben and his team have done a fantastic job, and a lot of product placement for BoxRaw in our ring, as well as a Kronk BoxRaw boxing ring. And we're going to be doing some merchandise collaboration with them in time. So it's a whole gamut. If you look at what Kronk is today, you've got the history, you've got the champions of the past, we've got all the content that's derived from that, we've got community, we've got amateurs, we've got professional, we've got gym management. There is so many revenue tentacles hanging off this brand, and somewhat overwhelming to manage in a very positive way, because you've got to pick your lane and focus. I always talk about building the horizontal so it's strong, and then you can slide into the verticals with confidence. A lot of startups I see make a lot of mistakes and just kind of try a bit of everything. We've got to really focus. We've got a whole list of revenue streams that we can go and penetrate, but time, resourcing, capital, and each one of those components will decide when we unlock another revenue stream. So that's a bit of the framework around Kronk today. But yeah, going back, that original center was a respite and a place of safe space for so many people, so many kids, troubled youth growing up in Detroit in a very, very hard era. And the Kronk Recreation Center will live on forever through us.
Awesome. And then how do you sort of keep that, like, I guess, how do you balance between sort of monetizing it and going off down that route and making sure you leverage all the commercial opportunities that you can? How do you balance that with making sure that it's still, accessible, it still serves the purpose that it had when it was first set up? Like, how do you sort of balance the two?
It's pretty simple, Mo, because we enable it. We're not this untouchable corporate that doesn't allow community or doesn't involve in community. We're very focused in that respect. In the location of the gym, it's right near the other 4 franchises of Detroit. So you have the Detroit Pistons, Detroit Tigers, Detroit Red Wings, Detroit Lions, all within a mile of each other. And we're right there with them. So all of them are sports franchises, and we're bringing this brand back as a sports franchise. It's not just a boxing gym. There's a lot more that goes into this business than that. In our gym, we have veterans coming in. We have kids that come in with, bless them, not the best footwear. They've not got the money for gloves and equipment. So we provide all of that for the kids that come in the gym. We'll waive fees where necessary for kids that are just need to get off the streets, because there's a lot of gang influence around there. And so we're doing all we can with the community. And a good thing that we do is, Mo, that once the kids join, if they're good enough to get on the amateur team and we sign them, we then waive all their fees. because they're part of the team. So that's another big way that we help. And what I've loved to observe with the gym as well, just the community it's built within itself since December the 3rd when we opened, and kids that never met each other, that may have been at different boxing gyms or may not have boxed at all, have now found friendship, brotherhood with each other. They're supporting each other when they're sparring, they're gaming at night time. And we always get wind of a kid that's going through a bit of struggle, and the gym management will make sure they look after it. So we're open to anybody, any age, any skill level. If you want to come and train there and just get fit and learn the fundamentals, great. If you want to come and build your career, you can come and do that as well.
Awesome. And then going back to when you met John Lepak in August 2022, I think it was, you saw an opportunity to then acquire the trademarks. Firstly, like, how did that, I guess, how did that come about? And also as well, I wanted to ask, you spent 31 years in IT. Are there any sort of transferable lessons and transferable traits that you've sort of implemented from your world in IT to building the Kronk legacy?
Great questions, Mo. I'll start off with John. So a mutual friend of ours connected me and said there's an opportunity to meet the Stewart family and buy the trademark. So just a bit of history. Obviously, Emmanuel passed in 2012. And from there on in, his wife, Marie, and the daughter, Sylvia, two wonderful ladies that I've become obviously very close with throughout these last 2, 3 years. They were safeguarding the brand as best they could. There was a few other iterations of Kronk coming back throughout the COVID period, and one did open a gym, but unfortunately it flooded, and then COVID hit, and that was kind of the last iteration. So we basically bought the trademarks, 50 pieces of paper that said we own the brand in multiple territories, and that's how that developed and unfolded. And we followed that forward. We closed on the acquisition May of 2024. I called it quits from IT in June of 2024. And then by September 1st, we had to build a website. There was no website. So, and that was in conjunction with our first revenue stream activation, which was merchandise. So we went online saying that we're back with a revenue stream of merchandise, which I'm very happy to say has really excelled over the last 18 months with repeatable income and forecastable revenue in terms of what you put in terms of ad spend, the variation of the SKUs and the colors. We can pretty much forecast where we're going to be from now towards the end of the year, which is fantastic. In terms of the knowledge attained over the years, this has been massive for me, Mo, in terms of the adaptation. And I believe every leader has to adapt to their environment. I know I mentioned earlier, I'm a Man U fan. Do you support them as well?
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example, which really bothered me twofold. One as a leader, two as a Manchester United fan. You know about Ruben Amorim, and thankfully no longer at Manchester United. He may well be a fantastic individual and a great family man, but in terms of his leadership, that's an example of what not to do in leadership, in my opinion. You were given a team that could do a certain formation and play a certain style, and he came in and he started changing it to his idea and his strategy, which is fine. But you can't just come in all like that and change. You have to adapt to your environment. You've got to look around and see which players can play with three at the back, which players may I want to get rid of in the next transfer windows, so I can in 2-3 years I can have my formation, my style, my strategy. He just came in and did it, kind of do as I say approach, and you saw the results. The team went under. Now, whether it's a sports team or a business, small, medium or large, you've got to work with what you've got. And in time, you plug the pieces in the wall and you start to develop, and you help people and you coach them and you give them guidance and you show them different ways. So I've been doing a lot of that with the team that I have now. And they've been doing a lot of that with me, because there's certain approaches that just aren't going to cut it. And in some ways, at the start of my journey of this, I found it so frustrating. It's actually worked out better for me because I've seen a different way to work. So I have that corporate structure and rigor with the business side. I talk about the foundations. We have a CFO. We do everything correctly. But the way people work in this industry, even on the partner level that I work with, is just different. It's a little slower. The communication's not as sharp. And I'm used to 24/7 all in, all on. And I one took a breather from that, and it's been so liberating for me. And two, made me realize that that's insanity to be on the hook that much for any business. You've got to give back and talk a little bit more to people instead of just emails all the time. So I guess the transferable assets from corporate life to the life I'm in now. One, you've got to be adaptable and understand what you've got. But two, the basics of um, being good with people, building network, good integrity, being polite. When you've got a milestone for a partner, internal, external, communicate. So all of those models I've absolutely brought in because that's important. Whoever we deal with, I want to make sure that they get the best experience. And again, we've got lots of external stakeholders. You've got fans, you've got customers, you've got gym members, you've got employees, but you've got fighters. But what are all those, Mo? They're all people.
Mm.
So you've got to serve them in the right way. So um, for me personally, that's always been my leadership style. So those skill sets were transferable, but the way I applied them in corporate was in a different way because there was a different machine around me. And I'm just so happy to be free from it because I'm doing it with a lot more freedom, and myself and the team have adapted to each other's ways.
You said something when we first started, and I'm gonna butcher what you said, but I think you said something about trying. That you're not afraid of trying. I think you said something along those lines. But were there any like mistakes or anything that you made at the start when you first took over the trademarks, and like how did you learn from those? I guess from those mistakes.
Yeah, I'd say in certain elements we were moving a bit too fast, a bit too
Okay.
excited,
Yeah.
um, not as planned in certain ways that we could have done. But yeah, I think we mitigated a lot of mistakes for one reason, the team dynamic. We very much talk about where we're heading and where we're going. And sure, I can provide direction, but it's not that that's it and no one can speak. No, it's all about the feedback loop and doing what's right for the brand. And that's one thing I've always said. And again, sport business, it's one big a pie of life for me. Nobody's bigger than the club. Nobody's bigger than a corporation. Nobody's bigger than the team. Nobody's bigger than Kronk. It's all about the brand. What is right for the brand? Who we work with, how we present it, and where we're going to take it. So the brand comes first. There's certain opportunities we had, we're not going to work with. That's not what Kronk does. We won't. We won't partner with alcoholic firms, cannabis, which is legal in 20 plus states in the US, because that's not what Kronk is. You can't do that. So there's certain places we can't go. So the brand is forefront of all of our thoughts on where to carry this vehicle, this massive historical brand, and how to position it in the market today.
Awesome. And on that, do you think the success of the Kronk Gym is reflective of a good American boxing ecosystem? Because we've seen like obviously there was a period where Kronk Gym was quite inactive, and I guess over the past few years, American boxing has like slowly declined. There's been less and less, I guess, stakeholders active in the space. But now that you guys are, I guess you bought the trademarks and you're now sort of rebuilding the brand, do you think a successful Kronk Gym would make for a better American boxing ecosystem?
I absolutely believe that, and there's no brand bias attached to that at all. Um, just like the biggest names in the world of sport, the Chicago Bulls, the New York Yankees, the Detroit Lions, Man United, Chelsea, whoever you think of, that's where Kronk is in the world of boxing. It's right there. It's the most iconic, most successful gym of all time. So naturally, developing an amateur team, having Jonathan Banks as our head trainer, we hope and we will attract top talent and top professionals. But again, that has to come at a time when it's right for the business to absorb that. Things aren't free. You've got to make sure we've got the revenue in place to support it. But I think it can absolutely help with the ecosystem of US boxing, Mo, because as you said, US boxing, again, being a Brit, lots of activity over there for the last 10, 15 years. Great champions at all weights. But before that, it was all American. You know, I do really believe, though, an American heavyweight champion changes everything. There's not that one polarizing figure anymore that was Muhammad Ali, was Larry Holmes, of course, Mike Tyson. Deontay was up there, but then he was undone by the Gypsy King. But I think an American heavyweight changes everything, and yeah, the opportunity for that incredible. I hope there is one at some point because there's always that thing about the American heavyweight. It just brings more flavor to everything. Now, don't get me wrong, Moses Aitoma, and I know you were there, Mo, but just watching him the other night, that uppercut he finished Franklin with, it reminded me of Mike Tyson against Pinkland Thomas. Just a vicious uppercut, and he was out cold. And the other nudge he got on top was just a little bit of a make sure from Moses. He could have flicked him at that point. But that guy's going to rule the division for years. I don't think any of the big guys will want to get near him. He's just too much. So in terms of the American heavyweight, let's see what can be mustered. But yeah, we want to be able to help first support our amateurs. That's the foundation of any business, sport or otherwise, is the youth coming through the system. Strong amateur team, we've got great trainers in place, and keep developing them, keep pushing out our pros, and eventually people will see the size of the platform, the iconic nature of it, the famous gold trunks. If I'm a fighter, that's what I want to be in.
Just on Moses, do you think he can sort of really make a name for himself in the States, and you think he can really become that crossover star? Because I guess the things that I guess differentiate the good from the great is that the great are known by people from all different industries. Like Anthony Joshua is a great example. He crosses over into entertainment and just into the wider public lexicon. Do you think with Moses Atama, do you think he can do that, and you think he can really become a big name in America?
I think the guy's a global icon in the making. He's got a great team behind him. We mentioned off camera about our mutual friend that looks after his commercials, Rav. He's got a fantastic team, and as you mentioned with AJ, his crossover capability was massive. You've got to have the success, you've got to have the great wins, and his victory against Klitschko was the start for him. And then what happens with that? The socials increases, the sponsorship opportunities increase, the brand partnerships increase, and they become ambassadors for some of the biggest brands in the world. I don't know Moses' suite of companies that he works with just now, but I would expect they're going to get much bigger and much higher profile if he carries on living like he does. And the biggest thing I love about him, there's no mouth. He's very aware of his capabilities, and he somewhat talks down on him. No, he just doesn't go, yeah, look at me, I'm going to do this, I'm going to be the world champ. He's very, very humble. He's been raised well. He's got a solid team around him, and the world is truly his oyster. What he's done at 21 years old, he's just knocked out a guy that Dillian White and AJ could not do, and they fought him 4 years prior. Moses has got all that capability, and he's young. He gets the new generation, big on socials. He's very talkative. He meets well with people. I think he's got all the ingredients to be an absolute superstar.
Yeah, he's just 21 years of age, and I think it's that stoic attitude you mentioned already. I mean, he's already a Nike athlete. He's, I guess the companies that he can then go on to become the face of can only get bigger. Just talking about your guys' deal with, I think it's with Boxing News. I just wanted to delve into that a little bit. How did that come about? Because Boxing News themselves have gone through a bit of a rebrand. Yeah, how did that come about, and what does that deal sort of entail?
Sure. So one of our team members, Chris Ridgway, who actually works at Queensberry and he's got his own media production company, he reached out to me on Instagram a year ago, he knows two very, very old friends of mine in Manchester, and somehow it came up and they connected the dots and he messaged me. We were already connected on Insta and he just said, "Hey, love what you guys are doing with Kronk, would like to have a chat." And Chris is just helping us with socials and the maturity of them. And why I'm mentioning him is it was his introduction to the custodian of the Boxing News brand, Jordan Pollock, that enabled this relationship. So the Boxing News team have seen what we've been doing. I'm very active on LinkedIn. I do a lot of company posts regarding Kronk and its progress and its partnerships. It's the best ecosystem for partnerships in my opinion. And the Boxing News team had been seeing a lot about what we're doing, and then we had a call with them. They love our history, they love the legacy, they love what it stands for, they love what we're doing, and they love our vision for the future. And they wanted to become our global media partner. So we agreed, and they've been doing some serialized posts on the history of Kronk. They've got a much bigger platform than us, so it's very additive to our audience to get new ones. And he made a point that, Boxing News have never really done a series on Kronk. So there's social media collaborations on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, X, and they're also going to be doing a dedicated magazine on everything Kronk, where it will be a lot about the past, it'll be about the current. My partner and I, John, will be interviewed, and then about the future. And that's how that came around. So couldn't be happier. And again, testament to where we've come. If we were still on the radar, not doing so much, no one's going to see you. You have to be out there and promote this brand. And Boxing News, established in 1909, another iconic name in the world of boxing, partnering with the most famous gym in the history of boxing. It made complete sense. So we're delighted with that partnership.
Perfect. Final couple, because I know I've taken quite a bit of your time already. What does a successful 2026 look like for Kronk? Yeah.
Continued momentum of all the things that we're already doing. The gym's only been open December 3rd, so three and a half months. We've got 157 members. It's a hybrid model at the gym, Mo. We have fitness and training 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. and then it's boxing 4 till 8. So it's like two communities in one. 157 members mixed between both of them communities. I would say 70% boxing, 30% fitness. So continuing to drive that message that we're back. We're back in Detroit. Come and join us irrespective of fitness level. Working with our brand partnerships on the merchandise side to keep furthering on the brand from a revenue perspective in terms of merchandise and consumer products, and signing fighters. We need the best amateurs. We need solid pros, and that's why with the position we have for Jonathan, that's only going to cement that, because he gives us that absolute credibility in the boxing world, because he's a true teacher of the sport, just like Emmanuel was. So 2025 I classed as a very good year for proving out the platform, and we really showed what this brand can do in 2025. 2026 is building off of that platform to take it to the next level in terms of exposure and revenue generation, and just following the path. Like I said, keep building out the horizontals and sliding in where appropriate. And then always aware of the bluebird. Things come in that you don't expect. A Boxing News came out of the ether. What's next? What global licensing deal can we get? There's so many avenues to uncover and tap, and we're just going to continue to build this as aggressively but carefully as possible in 2026.
Awesome. And you said you guys wanted to sign some more fighters. Am I right in saying you have one fighter that's pro under your stables at the moment? I guess what type of fighter are you guys looking to sign? What does he have to embody himself to become a successful advocate of the Kronk brand?
Well, I look at it like this. When I was ever in my own world, talent and degrees alone don't get you a job. You got to have character. You got to have integrity. You got to behave. You got to represent your brand, no matter what the brand is, when you are not within the vicinity of working on that brand. So fighter wise, we've got Hunter Lee is our professional, a very successful amateur, multiple time Canadian amateur champion. We signed him as a pro. Our other fighter that's trained by Jonathan Banks, William Myrie, he was trained by Milton McCrory from 8 years old. He was part of the Kronk ecosystem. He's the amateur team captain. He'll turn pro in August. So we've got two really fantastic role models right now for our amateurs. So that's the benchmark. That's the bar. And we don't have to sign fighters for the sake of it. They've got to have the everything that I said earlier in order for them to become under our advisory and wear those gold trunks. We want fighters that can take the brand further, that will respect the brand, and that set examples just like William and Hunter do right now.
Perfect. I think that's a great way to end. Paul, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Mo. Thank you for having me on.
Of course. I'll just stop recording.